You're listening to The New Paris. I'm your host, Lindsay Tremuta. 10 years in the restaurant world is almost an eternity, and yet it's the milestone that Pearlyn Lee has reached with her business, The Hood. The Singaporean has run a Southeast Asian cafe you've heard me talk about in years past on this show, in addition to a banh mi sandwich and donut shop called Nonette right across the street. I recently traveled with her through Singapore, a truly fascinating multi-ethnic and cultural melting pot, and I finally got to see firsthand how that all plays out in its food. She joins me to talk about going from the corporate world into food, the hurdles she's overcome in fulfilling her vision for the cafe, and educating diners on more than a surface level about Southeast Asian flavors, particularly in Singapore, and why now Parisian diners are finally latching on. And whether you're new here or you're an existing listener who hasn't yet subscribed, now's a good time to hit the subscribe button so you get updated as soon as a new episode releases. Pearl, welcome to the show.
Hi.
You and I have seen a lot of each other recently.
Yeah.
In Paris, but also in Singapore.
In Singapore, about a month ago.
I can't believe it. It was the best.
Yeah.
It was so fun, something we've talked about for so long.
Yeah.
Did you ever think that your buddies from Paris were going to come?
No, I mean, like you said, we've spoken about it for so long. And I think one of the things that has been really always difficult to explain it's what Singapore really is about. And the only way to do that is really to experience it firsthand.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
It's, first of all, as a writer, that's kind of crucial, you know?
Right.
And so you've brought me into The Hood over the years, and you had me interview Jeremy,
yes,
the chef
3 years ago,
who came over from Singapore, but it's still very abstract until you're on the ground.
Totally.
You know?
Yeah.
But listeners have heard from other chefs in the area. They have heard me talk about The Hood before, but they haven't actually met you.
Oh,
so,
really?
No, it's you. This is your first time on the show. But so how does a Singaporean find herself in Paris?
Good question. So I was working in a French company before. I was coming up to Paris at least twice a year and have always loved the city and was planning to move here with my last job. And somehow it never happened. But ended up next door in Geneva.
A less exciting place.
Yep.
Sorry, anybody from Geneva listening.
But I was coming out to Paris every weekend, to see friends and to wine and dine. And then it kind of struck me around 2013. Where are the coffee shops, right? Because we were already seeing like the whole specialty coffee scene taking off in a lot of the big cities.
Mm-hmm.
But, it was so hard to find a coffee place that made a good flat white.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just casually told a friend, you know what? It can't be that difficult to open a coffee shop, right? So let's just make it happen. And also the prior year in 2012, I had this crazy experience in Geneva during the Fête de la Musique. Obviously, there was a music festival in the park and I had too much beers, was looking for a bathroom, but found a lonely Mexican guy in a yellow shirt playing the piano by himself. And I walked up to him and offered to play a few songs with him. But like the two of us grew into a crowd of almost 200.
You're kidding me.
Yeah. And someone filmed the night and it gave me goosebumps when I saw the video, which is on YouTube, by the way.
Oh.
There was just like everyone from all cultures and, different colors and just crowding around the piano singing the Beatles.
And you played the piano then?
I was playing the piano. I played till my fingers bled that night.
How does that happen?
Because you were trying to just get everyone all hyped up, so you're really slamming on the keys.
Wow.
And people were singing so loud, so you're trying to match the volume. And that night, it just made me realize how powerful music was. And I wanted always to probably have a space at one point to bring that sort of atmosphere into a room where everyone could feel like they belong. And the coffee bit was kind of the add-on to the concept.
I see.
Right?
So you didn't make it to the bathroom, did you?
No.
Sorry, I really needed to know the ending of that part of the story.
Yeah, we finished at 4 a.m.
Oh my
And I
gosh.
left the place trembling from all sorts of emotions.
I mean, yeah, you must have been on a high.
Yeah.
So you were in Geneva still working,
Yeah.
and that happened while you were still living there.
Yeah.
And then shortly after, you sort of realized Paris could use something like this.
100%. And especially around coffee. And I also realized the Asian food scene back then was quite limited to what you find in the 13 arrondissement, which has its own style, and also the traders on the street. So, I just thought maybe there's a gap we could fill, but the food bit never really was the main part of why the hood was open in the first place. It was really about good coffee, community, running events, incubating cool projects that we love. But somehow it just evolved. And then the tipping point was actually the pandemic.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes. But before the pandemic, you had started serving food. I mean, it wasn't, and you were doing something called Kaya Toast, which no one knew of.
Right.
I'm sure there are listeners who are familiar with Singapore, but maybe there are plenty who aren't. And so, what is Kaya Toast?
So Kaya Toast, it's a breakfast all day ritual. It's a toast with coconut pandan jam, and
pandan is
a plant. That you find in abundance all over Singapore. Not so you can't grow it here in Paris, although I'm hearing stories about people
are trying
to open a pandan-ish farm. I don't know how that's going to happen because it's definitely a tropical. Yeah. But obviously pandan has grown in such in terms, it's trended a lot, especially this year. And I kind of always anyways, going back to Kaya, it's a jam. It's a coconut jam that's actually inspired by the Portuguese traders when they used to come into Southeast Asia.
Oh.
Yeah. There's a whole story on Block 65's feed about certain foods that are shaped by colonialism. And Kaya is definitely one of them. And in Singapore and Malaysia, we kind of really made it our own. So it's really a breakfast thing. You kind of dunk your toast in coffee or milk tea, the one that you're having right now.
Yes, she brought me thé tarik, which is delicious. And she makes it you make it with oat milk instead of condensed milk, right? So it's not quite so sweet and heavy, but very refreshing.
Totally.
So you mentioned Block 65, which is your other project, and we'll get to the fact that you run several businesses. It's a cultural agency, essentially, bridging Singapore and Europe and
Southeast Asia
and sort of public interests and private interests.
Totally.
And you're educating about the region, but also about Singapore. And what's funny, you're mentioning Kaya Toast, and as you rightfully say, it has become a little bit more popular. It's definitely not a totally unfamiliar word in Paris, but it started with you. And so everyone listening should know, no one was doing it before you.
Totally, yeah. We had to.
It's true.
I mean, the 13 had some pandan cakes already, but it wasn't something anyone would pick up, right? So I would say we definitely made it mainstream for our very French clientele here.
And you were advertising it. Like, it wasn't just, it is among this offering of, Asian or Southeast Asian goods. You see it in the 13th. I'm assuming it's a lot of people who know already.
Yes.
They don't need to be educated about it. So you are, okay, that's a good caveat, just to say that there were the people in the 13th doing it. But definitely in Eastern Paris, in an environment that is not necessarily a traditional looking establishment, you brought this to the forefront.
Yeah, it was the first cake we put on the menu.
So that's the pandan chiffon cake.
Pandan chiffon cake. It didn't come with the Kaya before. So this funny story about the Kaya was we had the Kaya toast.
Yes.
But no one wanted to try it. So we had to go on the street and we piped Kaya shots to get people to taste it, because they're like, ew, what is this thing? Is that matcha or is that pistachio? And so to get people to actually taste it, so when they taste it, obviously you see the expression on their face, they're like, "What is this? This is so good."
Yes.
And I'm like, "Yeah, right." I mean, the same story of chicken and rice. It sounds boring, but like
It is
bomb
not
of a flavor.
exactly. But do you
Yeah.
think that reaction of ew is it feels like the common naive reaction that people have?
Yeah, I don't think
things
it's
they don't know.
intended to be bad. It's more, I've never seen this before. So either you're curious to know more. I mean, we've seen a varied number of reactions, but the most common one was like a look of, what is this? I'm not gonna try it. And you see that a lot at Nonette, actually.
So Nonette is your other business across the street where you
Sorry,
do.
we're like jumping all over.
No, but we'll get back to the hood.
Yeah.
Don't worry. But because it's all linked
Connected,
and it's
yeah.
all connected to you. So banh mi, donuts,
Yeah.
and you do a kaya donut,
Yes.
which is divine.
Yeah.
And this was the big topic of conversation, less about necessarily what you guys do with the hood, but more Nonette, which is in people's minds, the banh mi is some cheap
sandwich. Yeah.
And what always infuriates me about this sort of cycle of comments that you hear is that people are willing to pay a fortune for a cheeseburger for a jambon beurre that involves less work.
Yes.
But they will balk at an 8 to 12 euro sandwich with, home cured meats and pickled vegetables and all the other
100%,
things,
yeah.
right?
House-made sauce, pâtés.
So
yeah.
In the time that you've been open, both at Nonette and the Hood, has that improved at all? That sort of knee-jerk stereotype from diners that no, in my head, Asian food is, first of all, a monolith.
Yeah.
And it is all should not be as expensive or more expensive than the things I deem more valuable. Has that changed?
You've definitely seen a shift in Paris and globally, actually, because, like I said, thanks to the explosion of stories on social media, from Australia all the way to the US, the number of people that are talking about it's created quite a momentum. And so people are picking up on these stories and understanding the craft behind it. And that's primarily why also Block 65 was born. It's to further push these narratives out through experiences and events and brand collaborations to make what might be foreign relatable, right?
But you are still the only, to my knowledge, correct me if I'm wrong, but the only space in Paris that is Singaporean. Obviously, your dishes are Southeast Asian, but there's a definite focus on Singapore because you are Singaporean, and the Singaporeans who come to Paris come to you.
Yeah.
But no one else has done this.
No. And I think if I had chosen to open a restaurant that's sustainable 10 years ago, we probably would not have started
What do
with
you mean,
Singaporean food, because it was...
What do you mean by a restaurant that's more sustainable?
Meaning that it would, say, example, if you're going to open a burger or pizzeria, right? It's already food that France is familiar with. Or maybe a baboon store, right?
Oh, God. Forgot about that, yes.
Or a kebab, right?
Sure.
Kiosk. Singapore as a country isn't that well known beyond certain circles. It's always known to a limited group of people in the finance and tech and defense, certain sectors, right? But we're here, open on Rue Jean-Pierre Tambo, where you have very international crowd, but mostly still French. It's what I like to call the real Paris, right? In a way.
So you do have still mostly French.
Yeah, 70% of our clientele at the Hood is French.
Huh.
And at Nonette, it's actually a lot larger, and it's like 90%, I think.
Because that's also a to-go place, so people can order and, they're coming for lunch, go back to their office. That's so interesting. So you have seen the shift.
Definitely.
To this day, do you still get questions about, why do you have this dish? What does this mean?
But they come in intentionally, as because they've heard about it. In the last 5 years, as you say, people are starting to discover the Hood, thanks to a few media platforms that picked up, and we were featured also in the Telerama recently.
Oh, you were? I didn't realize that. Okay.
And we've had French coming in from Bordeaux, discovering.
That's
They come
amazing.
straight to the hood for dinner while they're visiting Paris. It's quite surprising, and these tend to be readers who are just already curious about food in general, and they really come in intentionally to try it. But I mean, comparing this to a few years back when we were really just catered to the neighborhood, there was a lot of explanations, because obviously we come across as a coffee shop, but we also happen to do food. And so back then, the biggest question we had was, "C'est quoi pandan?" I mean, the
Yeah.
question was asked so much that the team created a playlist on Spotify for it. And the shift, I think, happened also because within the Paris food scene, you have like Bao family opening up people's eyes to Chinese food. So I think there are a lot of
Modern
things,
takes. Yeah.
within Paris that help shape or really shift people's idea about what Chinese food or Indian food, Vietnamese food could be. I mean, in the last 5 years, you've really seen quite an explosion of it.
So let me ask you, because my read, and this, I'd be curious to know if you think there's something else behind this, but my read is that in the last few years, some of these establishments that, not so much the groups, but let's say individual restaurants run by foreign or French from immigrant families are just sick of toning things down.
100%.
And that now there's just like you love it or you don't, but this is what we're doing.
Yeah. And I feel like we've found a community of these restaurant owners or chefs who share the same sentiment. And so obviously we talk a lot about it.
You do talk about it.
do,
Okay. And was that just sort of like a button that needed to be switched on, that people are just like, enough?
Yeah.
We are not going to cater to these people whose palates think it can't handle X, Y, and Z. Or
I mean, I think because food in itself is also an expression of the chef's identity. And I think for restaurants like Tramps or Reina, that definitely needs to come out more because it shows their roots, right? I'm not a chef. We created a space where you get comfort food from Southeast Asia, but we were also not going to compromise on certain authenticity, cultural authenticity.
Sure.
Which is very subjective, obviously. So the menu we created at the hood is stuff that we want to eat every day.
So it includes chicken rice, which, for those who don't know, what is the origin of that dish?
It's actually a dish that originated from Hainan Island in China, and it got readapted by the Hainanese in Singapore and Malaysia because there was a group that was very much involved in cooking back in the day, and they came up with a dish that was actually extremely frugal to put together because you use the entire chicken to cook the rice, to make the broth, to even elevate the flavors of the chili sauce. And it's an everyday dish, and the whole dish is really about emphasizing on the flavors of the chicken. It comes with 3 sauces normally, and a nice broth, which is also what makes it the perfect hangover cure.
Or even because you had us on our first full day in Singapore try it at a hawker center, somehow even in the heat, it did the trick.
Totally. I mean, it's food that it's probably the only dish I could eat on quite a daily basis. And when we first launched the chicken rice, I was eating it every day for quality control. This day is not so much because the team's gotten it really consistent. But yeah, the chicken rice, I mean, we used to get comments like chicken and rice, like that's it, They
don't know that that's what the dish is called, but that doesn't give it all away.
Yeah, and I think what we want to emphasize behind this very simple dish is the amount of work that goes behind it. You have to rub this chicken and massage it. There's an ice bath that that's involved. The number of we use pandan leaves in our broth to aromatize the broth that cooks the rice.
Yeah.
There's a lot of work and a lot of steps, and it's also the only dish I ever cook like for dinner parties. That's why it's also on the menu, because it's staple. It's a plate that I grew up eating.
Sure.
Every kid in Singapore
Knows it
knows
and eats it.
a plate of chicken rice. And
But what you do differently here is that you offer poached or roasted chicken.
yeah,
Roasted isn't usually offered, right, in Singapore?
it is offered.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, but we cook it a bit differently here. I mean, in Singapore, they even serve it with the innards because nothing goes to waste.
Right.
Right? Some serve it with pickled vegetables. We tried to do it here at one point, but took it off the menu because
The pickled vegetables? Lord. So much trial and error.
I know. I think we found a space for it. And in fact, it's the only reason why people come to the hood these days is to have chicken rice and have kaya and pandan.
I like
cake.
your cold cucumber dish, though.
Yeah, me too. Yeah,
Right?
Yeah.
So aside from that dish, what are some of the other signatures that you think best represent the region?
So definitely the satay. I don't think people did. Well, from the few places that I've had satay, I don't think I've had a good satay sauce. They mostly come up from a bottle, pre-made. We make our satay sauce from scratch. We also had inputs from chefs in Singapore who helped us refine it, like Damien De Silva, whom you've met.
Yes, and who works at a very elaborate restaurant.
Yes, in Singapore at the National Gallery.
At the National Gallery,
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
So all of this, you're 10 years in, chefs are completely embracing the full breadth of flavors in their cuisines.
Yeah.
What else could be contributing to this? Again, I think a certain stride that you've hit that feels really wonderful to see. Any other factors?
I think the diversity of the food that we're seeing these days in Paris, I think we're only just scratching the surface of the depth of what Southeast Asia as a region can offer. There's still so much that's not been talked about.
Well, you introduced me to something, or a restaurant that really tries to explore some of that, the flavors, the techniques, and the ingredients that we don't have access to here. Bing,
yeah.
Which is sort of like a very contemporary, beautiful tasting menu restaurant.
Yeah.
That works with different fish, works with different fruit.
Yeah.
First of all, jackfruit, which you see in many different restaurants in Singapore, is not something we get here. But I imagine that there are things that the French chefs or chefs here could access,
yeah,
but are not using.
Yeah.
Do you think there's still like a little bit of a uncertainty about how things will land, or do you think slowly we're getting to the point where we can start introducing bigger and more different things?
I definitely think we could, because a lot of the and again, this is 10 compared to say 10 years ago, a lot of the Southeast Asian chefs are taking more pride in their roots. Before, there was a lot of admiration for French culinary culture, right? I mean, because it deserves that. And for too long, I think we often look to the West or to Japan for inspiration and to feel like we're doing. I mean, in a way, the shift in Asian cuisine is also happening because Southeast Asia. Well, I talk about Southeast Asia, but a lot of the Singaporean chefs I'm seeing, they're taking more pride in their own culture as a way to explore beyond just French, Spanish, Italian,
and
cuisine,
Japanese,
cuisine. And you see, I think maybe that shift happened also with, looking at how Korea did it, right?
Interesting. Now, you were telling me something super interesting about Korea, right?
Yeah.
Which was that the French were heavily involved in
Shaping
consulting,
how they market.
consulting their leaders on marketing their culture and soft power
which
development.
comes a lot from pop culture. And through that, I mean, if you watch a Korean drama, it makes you want to eat Korean food.
Yeah.
Yeah, right?
So you think that that has helped the the fact that that's shifted from, maybe Japan to Korea a bit has allowed other regions.
I think we're taking inspiration from it for sure. I mean, using Singapore as an example, I can't really speak for Malaysia or Thailand or Indonesia, but Singapore being such a small country, you've seen, right? I mean, you can get from one end to another end in 40 minutes.
Yeah.
But like, while, across the city, there's just so many different ethnicities, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's also one of the struggles I have here in Paris is like, how do I even explain Singapore to you? There is Chinese, there's Malay, there are Eurasians, there are Indians, and then now you have the mixed culture kids that in the intermarriages, and each of them bring something to the table. You're seeing people picking influences from each other and creating a whole new identity of flavors.
Yeah, and
and borrowing it, say, from Japan, mixing that up. And interestingly, I think we're starting to see something of this nature taking shape in Paris, right?
Where do you see that happening most?
For example, I think Erica's done a great job.
Erica Paradise,
with Filipino
Reina
flavors.
and Mischief.
I mean, I go back to also Priscilla.
Who was a previous guest on this show,
That's
Priscilla
it. Yeah.
Tam.
Yeah.
I'm saying it in a French way and not the Vietnamese way.
Yeah.
She was helping me say it properly,
Oh,
but
really?
she is not here and I do not want to butcher it. So
Yeah.
but you guys can't do it all, right?
No,
There
right?
needs to be sort of a broader movement.
That's what I'm saying. So I think we're really just scratching the surface. And I think with food, it's usually a nice conversation starter. And that's why the Hood exists as the venue for that. And Block 65 takes it to another stage, another chapter.
What people need to know also is that, yes, you serve natural wines in the evening as well. You blend some of these very popular French items, right, that obviously have made their way around the world, but you're working with mostly French natural wine, right?
Yeah.
You do have some Singaporean spirits with Singaporean and Southeast Asian dishes. But the space exists also as a cultural venue. You've had art exhibitions in an upstairs room that's, fantastic. And you host events. And what does Block 65 mean? Because I didn't fully get it until I then was in Singapore and saw what a block was.
Right. So in Singapore, about 80% of our population lives in housing development boards. It's called short form acronym, HDB, right?
Housing Development Block.
Board, yeah.
Oh, board, not block?
Board.
Board.
But the HDBs are defined by blocks, right? You saw a lot of the high rise in different neighborhoods. Those are mostly public housing. And depending on which decade it was built, it has a different design as it evolves.
But they're very nice.
Yes. And within each HDB block, it's almost somewhat socially engineered. It gets different people from different ethnicities. There are quotas where you can apply to live. And it kind of also, I guess, I grew up in a HDB. We were forced to mingle with people that have a very different cultural background from you. And at HDB also, there's a lot of community events that happen at the void decks, which is the ground floor of the HDB blocks. Recently, you're seeing people organizing soup events to weddings take place there, funerals take place. People hold wakes there. Everything happens right at the void deck. So when we decided I was going to call Block 65, 65 being the calling code of Singapore.
Right.
It wasn't intended to make it fully Singaporean centric. The only reason why plus 65, it's Singapore becomes your connection to the region.
To the region, right. That makes sense.
As a hop in, but stay more than 3 days, and then hop into the region to explore the rest of Southeast Asia. It's an easy entry point in so many respects. Right?
Absolutely.
And block is spelled BLK, which doesn't really mean anything. It's just short form. Singapore is really efficient of words, right? So everything's just condensed. And that's what Block 65 means. It means community. It means everything that the mix of cultures and And for us at Block 65, it's about translating these cultures. And I think in a way, it's also inspired by what we've built at the Hood, because when we first started, I wanted the Hood to be a place, again, like I said, a place where people belong, but also it does not matter where you're from, what language you speak. This is a place where you can call it your home in a way.
Well, it feels very welcoming. And what I love about it is even recently the event when our friend Siuan was in town for his book and we were launching his book there. A woman popped in who had already eaten at the Hood several times that week. She rents she's from Los Angeles.
Yes,
she rents an apartment down the street and she happened to see that something was going on. And she said, I'd love to, be here for this. And she came in. And I think that's in some ways that's very Parisian also.
Yeah.
Do you think that has, I guess, legs to be built out even further so that the French, maybe just in the neighborhood, but hopefully more broadly in Paris, see the Hood as the place where there are cultural events happening? Is that where you're hoping to take things?
Yeah, we're trying to break down barriers, right? Make things relatable for everyone, because there are a lot of universal truths. I mean, no matter which city we're at, everyone wants to feel belonged somewhere. Like, social connections, more and more so important these days, because everyone's on their phones all the time. Memories of their of food that they grew up with. So that's quite universal too, right? No matter whether you're from Singapore or the US, you grew up with, say, your grandmother's or grandfather's cooking. And I mean, I always love to tell the story of a German lady walking up to me, telling me after eating that plate of chicken rice that the chicken broth reminded her of her grandmother's broth.
Wow.
Yeah. So, that's what I love about food and music, actually. It's so universal, right? So I think in a way the Hood exists to bridge all of that with Southeast Asia as a central theme, because what we were really trying to do is to tell stories that is relatively untold in Europe, because the understanding of it, the amount of content that exists, it's very lean.
It is, you're right.
And I think that's what we're trying to bridge as a starting point. But I think it goes beyond that. I think if I think back about why I created the Hood in the first place, it's actually, we're kind of pivoting back to its original purpose.
Well, that's what I mean. I feel like you were maybe too early for its original vision.
Yeah.
Because Paris was not ready. It's often not ready for some things.
Yeah.
And then you sort of figured out what your offering is.
Yeah.
And then now, like, people are really ready for all sorts of factors, right? As a result of being tethered to digital devices and needing a break from that, as a result of traveling more, of perhaps seeing certain pieces of content that, open their eyes to what was right under their noses in Paris.
Yeah.
And you've also taken Nonette, which is Vietnamese, French, back to Singapore.
Yep.
So you're creating this bridge.
Totally.
Do you think that Singapore is now, I guess Singaporeans who travel are now like, who's this woman who's doing all this stuff in Paris?
Oh no, I don't think they.
Well, you
ever
were just
asked.
in Silver Chris magazine, weren't you?
Yes, but I don't think anyone would read it.
I bet they are.
Yeah.
Anybody who's listening and is flying on Singapore Airlines, is it just Singapore Airlines?
Yeah.
Okay. Which is already an amazing airline.
Yeah.
They can read a profile of you
Yes.
in the magazine. So no, I would say that people are paying attention.
Yeah. I think it's I mean, most Singaporeans don't end up in Paris, I would say. It's very unconventional path, because being English speaking, there's a tendency to head to, if you're gonna move, right? I mean, besides going to China or Japan or Korea, people tend to move to Australia, the UK, or the US, right? Choosing to be in Paris, it's rare.
So you're a rarity.
For what we've built, yes, because it's not obvious.
C'est pas évident.
Ouais, c'est pas évident.
C'est pas évident. It's a very good French way of saying it. But
you'll be surprised that, in fact, there is one Singaporean brand that came out here 40 years ago.
Who?
Yos.
Yos.
Yeah.
But where are they sold here?
So they are primarily sold in Tong Fre and a lot of the
Oh,
Asian
yes.
stores in Chinatown. And the funny story, so this link back to what I talked about, how Asians are taking more pride in
Yeah.
their roots and stuff that they grew up with. I met the Yo's team from London about 2 years ago at the Hood, and we were asked to meet the team as the Hood because there are not many Singaporean restaurants. I mean,
Right.
there's only one back then, right? So that's us. And I kind of refused the meeting because I was like, I don't drink Yo's, and I don't know how this Asian drink is gonna fit in the restaurant when we're all about craft. So that was my inherent bias
Mhm.
against my own country's 126-year-old heritage brand. I mean, they do more than drinks, but they're really known for their drinks, right? And eventually, I agreed to a coffee meetup, which became a 3-hour lunch
Haha.
because I realized how much I didn't know, and that I was biased. And I found out how they were actually sourcing soybeans from, non-GMO farms. They were picking out their lychees from Taiwan, I think, and their chrysanthemum tea, which sounds weird, but it's such a cooling drink. They have them. I saw the bags in the factory, like they're all real chrysanthemum flowers.
Not extract. It's not.
No,
Yeah.
everything is it's well sourced.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it's not a story that they have spoken about, and so
Right.
no one knows. And at that point, we also had a few chefs at the Hood having lunch that day, and one of them is Vietnamese, and I introduced the chef to the Yo's team, and they were surprised. They're like, "Oh, we grew up drinking Yo's."
Ah, so in Vietnam as well.
No, in France.
Ah, right.
And
If it was
also
available at
in
Tong
the
Frère.
in the US. So it was when I realized, wow, everyone had such emotional connection to this drink, but I didn't because I didn't grow up drinking it naturally.
You had an a priori, as the French say. But
Yeah.
but what's interesting is you told me when we were in Singapore that actually their coconut water,
It's excellent.
it's excellent, and I can confirm that now because it's 100%
Coconut.
coconut, and I did not know that a lot of what you get here is diluted.
Yeah.
Now you know, guys.
Yeah.
People
And
go
there's
to
all the more to drink coconut water in this heat.
well, yeah, and
Yeah.
people are, I'm seeing it in every supermarket. Franprix has
Yeah,
it in the
it's sold out
refrigerated
now.
section, but it's not. I don't know that it's very obvious that it's diluted though when you
Yeah.
look at the packaging.
Yeah.
So, is there? Are you trying to like bring Yos more into
I
the
think,
restaurants?
It's already in our restaurant. So because when I realized how underrated they were as a drink and that they were trying to be seen beyond Chinatown, we decided let's do something, and we put them on a Nonette cart and took them to the opera for events.
The Paris Opera?
Yeah,
Oh my
to
gosh.
fashion weeks to make what seemed like a weird Asian drink to a lot of people relevant, culturally relevant, and because Nonette has that face for it in some ways, and it was intentional as well because we realized to make food relatable, we have to make it really accessible for people. That's why Kaya went in a beignet or donut, right?
Right. You bring a familiar thing with something unfamiliar.
Yeah, that's not too foreign.
Yeah, exactly.
And then when and we go from there. So Nonette becomes that vehicle for Yo's, in this case, to be seen outside the traditional retail points. And yeah, I mean, we've been working with them for 2 years now. I've taken off Coca-Cola off Nonette's shelf space.
Good for you.
Just to make us a point.
I'm sure you still get asked
Of
for
course,
it, right?
yeah.
The French and their Coke Zero and all of that.
Sure.
But you have to do it. At some point, you have to rip that Band-Aid, and there are plenty of places
That's it.
that don't offer,
Yeah.
any variety of drink, and that's their choice.
Yeah. So I think they have a lot of drinks that, again, remains unseen and untasted. And I think, again, like what we set out to do at Block 65 with the Hood and Nonette being mediums for
Mm-hmm.
channeling these flavors and brands, it's that we try to make them relevant here.
Mm.
I think it's driven really by, like I said, I've kind of found a purpose. Like I realized we can become translators, right? Because of everything we've experienced here.
And the French are curious, right?
We experienced it firsthand.
You did.
With the pandan to begin with, yeah.
But that's something that's a story that needs to be told, and the French love learning about where things come from and the origins of things. And so I think it's just sort of getting you and your tale in front of the right people, right?
That's it. Yeah.
One last thing I wanted to address, and that is how you did something that is very challenging, which is open a business in France.
Yes.
And it's been 10 years. You've opened not just one, but, 2 brick and mortar spaces. Is it as hard as everyone says, administratively?
It's definitely hard, especially for a non-native French speaker.
But even though you came from a business background and you are, good with numbers and all that stuff.
Sure. It doesn't apply. I mean, like I said, 10, 12 years ago, I was telling everyone, it can't be that difficult, right? I mean, it seems so obvious. You just rent a place and you open. And I don't think it's specific to France. Opening a brick and mortar is always hard, no matter which city you're going to be in. And especially with hospitality, because it's not a digital product. You deal with people. And that means you need a team that actually cares about caring for people. And I think that's the hardest part for me. It's about how do you get that across to the team on top of all the other missions we have for the hood.
Yeah.
Getting them to embrace all of that. So the French bureaucracy, you can't change that. But yeah, opening a business here has definitely been really rough. It's like,
but you're still doing
a complete roller coaster, right? But I'm also really thankful there's such a big community behind us that have always stepped in when we needed support and help. And I think that's the beauty of our street on Rue Jean-Pierre Tambo. It's really like a village. And I love that for that. It's so international and so supportive in a strange way.
Yeah.
And in a way, it kind of reminds me of a little bit of Singapore.
Yeah. Well, that block concept, right? Beneath these buildings is a whole community and retail spaces and gathering points. And, I think the synergies are actually far more obvious than people realize.
Totally. It took going to Paris to open the hood to make me understand Singapore better.
Oh, love that.
Yeah. And that's why when we went to Singapore, I was really putting on my Parisian lens too and realized that the daily rituals that you have, going to your coffee shop, going to a bookstore, right? It's the same rituals. It's just Singapore is a different expression, which I go back to the same point. It doesn't matter where we all come from. We're all humans. It's about being human. And I think that's really what I was trying to get to with the hood.
I think you've succeeded, Pearl. Well, I am both hungry and very excited to see what the rest of this year brings for you and next year.
Yeah.
So everybody, when you're in town, you go to Nonette, you go to the hood, you see maybe what kinds of events are on when you're here.
There's a fun one coming up.
What is that?
September. So remember Chop Chop?
Yep.
We bring it back this year.
So Chop Chop, just briefly, is a sort of dinner series featuring chefs from Singapore.
More than that now.
That's the evolution. Okay, so everyone needs to follow the hood.
Yeah.
She will reveal all in due time, and you can be here, hopefully, when that's on schedule. Pearl, thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks, Lindsay.
That's the show for today. If you're listening on Spotify, be sure to check out the poll related to this episode by scrolling down in your app. There are more exciting conversations to come this season, so I hope you'll subscribe or share the show with a friend if you've been enjoying what you've heard so far. As always, you can find more from me at lindsaytremuta.com and at the NOW Paris Dispatch on Substack. À très bientôt.